How do you live a life that is significant without striving, meaningful in the mundane, and overcomes in spite of obstacles? Welcome to The Conversation, the Significant Life podcast with Jen and Marcus Jones.
I'm so excited. Welcome to the Significant Life podcast. I have a really good guest.
Yay! It's going to be fun today. I'm excited.
And in my home.
I know. We're in your home. We're doing it together. I feel like we are either borderline newscasters or we're just besties out for a great day.
Together at last.
Together forever.
You said that. I was like, Annie.
And everybody just went, delete. No more listening.
Also, if they're only listening, when you say we're like broadcast journalists, you are wearing pearls.
I am. I'm clutching my pearls. This is a new trendy thing. I don't know
if big pearl?
Yeah, a big pearl. Have you seen it? Maybe. You're more trendy than I am, but it's around. It's around. I'm trying it.
I like it.
We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how we like it. It's supposed to be like pearls with like more casual things. You guys thought you were coming here for, some help in your trauma world and your life and significant life. Instead, you're getting some really great fashion tips.
Fashion. Well, we both are layering. We both have very layered necklace situations.
Yeah, I'm here for it. And I put a cross on so that I felt spiritual.
Well, amen, because we are going to talk.
We're going to go there.
We're going to go there.
Yeah, we are.
So
we always do.
I know.
We will. Here's the thing. If you don't have a friend that you can be so silly with, and then within 30 seconds go deep, find it. Find that friend. Because that's us.
And interestingly, with our friendship, I actually think for us, and hey, maybe you have something to say about this since you are all things informed about the body, mind, and the spirit. You definitely are educated in deeply in all three of those things. I think for us, sometimes going deep and really going there enables us to have fun because we are also going to do a reel after this.
Yeah, we are.
And it's really silly. And it was like, let's go there first.
Right.
Let's chat on the podcast.
Like we're going to go there and then levity.
Then we'll just be ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I felt like, cause I would be ready for it. I'd be,
right.
Is that,
No,
tell me about that, Karrie.
No, that's so right. Also, here's what's good is that we're going to, after going deep, you want to have like levity and lightness, right? But if we would have done the lightness first, we would never have been able to rally this in.
We couldn't recover.
We can't recover. Okay. There's no way. So we're just being smart.
Well, you're in town. Yes, we are being smart. And you're in town, in my town right now in San Diego, which SoCal is your home.
Town. Yeah, it's where all my family is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. In San Diego specifically.
San Diego.
Yeah.
This is where I'm from, really.
Yeah. So, but ironically, it's not where we met.
No. Wait,
you were in Orange County.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But SoCal.
Yeah.
The point is you're here because, well, it's summer and you're here to be with family for the summer, but also tonight's a big night. It's a book release party because you just launched your book.
Free and Fully Alive.
Free and Fully Alive, reclaiming the story of who you were created to be.
Yes.
So,
it's crazy.
So we're going to party and celebrate this, but how, it's funny. We launched books within weeks of each other.
Yes.
I want to know how you feel. What feelings come up in you, Karrie?
Right. Well, we've talked a lot about this because you and I are very different. You and I are very different when we approach things, and which has been good because I think it brings a good balance to our friendship and relationship and things. But this has been it. I'm so excited about it. And in the same breath, it's very vulnerable for me. It's very vulnerable to put my words out there, to know, it's one thing when I get up and speak, people walk away and they don't remember every word I said. They remember how they felt when I said them, and they might remember a line or two. And then the Holy Spirit just kind of moves in their life and it's catalytic to whatever's next. And it's not that the book is less or more than that. It's just that it is in writing, black and white forever. And I got really vulnerable in this book, talked a lot about my own personal life and moving through these stages of real healing. And so I'm super proud of it. And I'm also in my own humanity, like, oh man, this is really vulnerable for me. And so the gamut of emotions, but I will say it launched June 6th. And that day I was curious on how I was going to wake up that morning, like what we're going to be the just true feelings that were there, not the manufactured ones or the ones that I think are supposed to be there, just what was truly there. And when I woke up to a few texts, and a friend of mine had done a reel as well about the book. And it just, from that moment on, the trajectory of the day was just goodness, just joy and delight and goodness, and people so excited about the message and just the championing of me as a human. And it was like, oh man, no matter what God requires of us, he just requires obedience, not sacrifice. He actually requires obedience over sacrifice for Samuel. And that has just been such a cool thing, because I think for so much of my life, I sacrificed for God. And in sacrificing for God, I really wasn't being obedient to what he asked me to do. I was sacrificing so that I could get accolade and I could be, a good Christian, and this book, it has not been that. This book has been an act of obedience that God has asked me to do, and I don't have to kill myself for it to live. It's God's already died. Jesus has already died, and whatever he asked me to do will live. And so it's been such a cool thing to be able to go, I was obedient here. Yeah, it's been a sacrifice, but my intention wasn't sacrifice over obedience. It was obedience that required sacrifice. And I think that's a really important distinction when we're looking at our lives, because often we sacrifice for the Lord when really we're actually trying to hustle for our own accolade and gain, and to fill something in our heart. And that's not what this book was. So it's cool.
So I did launch mine a little bit for you, and I do remember you asking me, like, how do you feel? And the only word that would come to me was delight.
Yes.
And I do know that my even writing of the book was not a huge desire. And I don't know if it was like on your top three things
it was
to
not.
do.
Plucked out of obscurity.
Yeah. And so, and I remember going, this is just literally an act of obedience. And so as you're talking about, I'm like, right, which leads to just delight, because it is, you're not doing it for any other need other than to just be faithful to the Lord. And And so, but something that you said in that, and how you felt that the June 6th on the day of your launch, and being championed, is that an unfamiliar feeling for you, or is it?
Yeah, probably. It's probably I don't know if I would really have let people have enough of a voice in my life years ago to champion me. I think I would have probably have been like, I don't need that. I'm hustling on my own. To be championed means that we are allowing our hearts to be vulnerable and in community. To be championed is to vulnerably say, I allow for your voice to speak into my life. And so, whether good or bad, when you're being championed, you are actually risking in vulnerability. So for me, that probably, I knew hustle. I knew performance. I knew that I got applauded when I did perform well. That's not actually being championed. That's being abused. And so that's allowing your gifting that you naturally have to be used for someone else's gain and glory, and for your own purposes to find worth. Championing somebody, or allowing your heart to be championed for what you've brought to the table, is actually vulnerable, because it's saying, no matter what this looks like, you're just proud of me for doing it. That's the difference.
Okay. I love that you said that it's not because you maybe weren't, but you didn't allow it because of the vulnerability. And I actually think that is a different spin, because I think there's a lot of like, oh, if only women would champion each other. And I'm here for that.
Yes, you are.
About
yes, you are.
championing one another. But there's the other side of the equation is like, as a woman, am I going to allow myself? Because it's actually very vulnerable.
It is.
And it's saying, I let you. And I sometimes think, as women, as humans, we do just like, no, I'll get it on my own. I'll hustle, I'll grind, I'll do it. And it does actually work until it doesn't.
Right.
It works until it doesn't. And I know for me, I am a super high achieving, performance driven. This is where you and I are so similar. Like, I'm thinking of what you always do, that story make them laugh, make them laugh.
Yes. That's actually in the beginning of the book. Yeah. I mean, that was like literally the crux of like, oh man, that little girl that just knew how to light up a room.
Perform.
Nobody ever told her to do that. That's actually my gifting. However, that was assaulted. And,
Abused. Like
yeah,
you
it
just
really-
that can be abused. And so, but I think many of us walk through life like, okay, I'll do more, I'll be more, I'll hustle harder, I'll try harder, all of these things, and it works until it doesn't. And I know for me, in my experience, when it stopped, actually, there was indicators because of what was going on in my body. And I want to talk. I want you to talk to us about, in particular, chapter 14, engaging the body. And I think it's just ironic because I am a health coach.
Yeah.
And I help people tend to their body.
Yes.
But I think in most frameworks, the body is to be abused. It's like, work for me, do this for me. I'm going to bully you. I'm going to be hard on you. I'm not going to appreciate you. I just need you to look this way for me and perform this way for me. And we don't understand. I did not understand what a big indicator it was for what was going on inside of my own heart and mind, and how it was such a gift to me when it decided to speak back. I mean, that's really what happened to me many years ago. My body decided to, I was so unaware. I didn't know I was having a panic attack, but it decided to like race. The heart started racing. The breath was hard to catch. Like it wasn't functioning the way like it had always functioned for me. And I was like, what is going on here? And there was a few of those moments until I decided like, oh, maybe I need to pay attention here because something is like, I'm either dying with cancer, which is always a first thought.
Right.
I'm dying. Okay. I'm dying.
Right.
Something's wrong with my heart or whatever. Or what?
Right.
And I had to get really curious. And so I do, I want to read a section of the book, but don't you find that this is like the body is such a huge indicator to what's going on in our hearts and our minds?
Yeah. I mean, the Bible says that we are body, mind, and spirit. And so this is the circumference. The Bible says, love the Lord your God. He doesn't say love the Lord your God, period. He says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, and with all your body. And so your body, I don't know how many of you guys were raised, but I was definitely raised in an environment, especially church environment, where it was all about cognitive memorization, understanding. I was a head on a stick. The body was just there. In fact, I would take it to the extreme that my body was actually a bad thing. It was a vessel that was going to cause men to stumble. It was, if I gave into the body, I was going to be, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Like it was never seen as this really good vessel, the carrier of the Holy Spirit. And I didn't understand the dynamics between how trauma and how heartache and harm affect not just your brain, but really the whole nervous system of your body. And because of that, I literally severed myself from my body, and I just relied on learning a lot and knowing a lot and my intellect. And so, but my body tells the truth. My body tells what's actually going on, and it tells the story far greater than my mind, because we actually feel sensations in our body before our brain makes sense of them. It's very quickly, but it comes in through our body first and then goes to our brain.
I mean, I immediately think the word that came to mind as you were talking is shame. Honestly, I was also raised that, and not anybody specifically, just this like kind of general they in my, I mean, honestly, a lot of the church upbringing around, I think church taught me that it was like, it's wrong. It's bad. Anything that you would do with your body is bad and wrong. Don't show it. Don't like all the things. And then culturally in the world, it's never going to be skinny enough. It's never going to be. So it's just like so much shame connected to the body. But I want to read what you say in this chapter. It says, our bodies need to be tended to and cared for. We need rest healthful, and life-giving foods and movement, among other things. When we fail to care for our bodies, I truly believe we are dishonoring the glory of God. Now, please don't read these as words of condemnation. Rather, take them as permission to tend to your body with goodness. Taking care of your body is holy work. This is some of my favorite parts about what you describe with the body. That was not in the book, but this is. Here we go. Play is holy work. Eating good food is holy work. An ambling walk is holy work. Meditating on God's word and taking deep breaths is holy work. And to be clear, bar class is the devil's work. But if you find connection to your body and God there, who am I to judge? Mm-hmm. Much of the work we have done in this book up to this point has been holy work. And yet I would be remiss if I didn't also help you see the value of engaging your body. Mm-hmm. So in full transparency, I think you might have been the first to introduce me to engaging my body in a way that was holy. I had engaged in some like yoga type classes before entering into some of the things that you do with Freedom Academy and Freedom Movement and all that. And I had friends that sold oils and I like rubbed a couple together one time, especially when I was like kind of in this panic mode a little bit. Like sometimes I would have a hard time catching my breath at night to go to bed. And I remember they told me lavender and orange together was a good combo.
Right.
And so it's like, you know, when you're desperate,
you'll do anything. Yeah.
But I do have a strong anchor in my faith and biblical truth. And some of that actually scared me a little. Like I cannot go off on this like woo woo path. So I was like, I don't like, and honestly, yoga did bring up some emotion in me.
Yeah, it does.
I had big guardrails about the spiritual part of it. So I was like, nope, okay, that's not it. And then I decided to go to Freedom Academy. And this was many years ago. And Freedom Academy, you know, we could talk more about that, but it was my first experience because of engaging the body in the way that helps us to be connected in this way and actually find some healing and pay attention. And it felt a little weird at first. Yeah. Because at the very beginning of Freedom Academy, you pretty much start it. You do have some oil. And, you know, I'm like, okay, I'm here. And I'm also, okay, go big or go home. So it's like, I'm here.
And there was some credibility in the fact that you knew me.
And I did. And I knew that this was rooted in biblical truth.
Right. So I like Karrie's not crazy.
No,
I don't think.
No, right. So I trusted you.
Yeah, right.
I trusted you. At that Freedom Academy, we were meeting in like a entryway of a church that I knew of, that I trusted. So I'm like, okay, like I'm not giving my way,
am I opening up a portal for the devil?
Portals, portals for the enemy. So I was like, okay, I'm going to roll with this. And I mean, even I remember like we had to put our feet, like get grounded with our feet. Yeah. And I mean, you encourage, like, if you need to take off your shoes, you can take off your shoes. I'm like, okay, what are we doing? We're feeling the ground. We're smelling oils. Lord, what is happening? Right. And you walked us through this whole exercise basically from head to toe. And I do remember it. And again, this was like 6 years ago, but I do remember it.
We blessed your body.
Enabling me to even just take a real deep breath and find some peace. Yeah. And, you know, so that was my introduction. And since then, I have continued to become aware and heal and grow and do some of the deeper work and continue to add tools to my belt to engage my body. And it's so good. It does still sometimes get in my head.
Yeah, sure.
Just the other day, like we were by the beach and we were having a rough moment and I was like, let's just go put our toes in the sand and get grounded. I'm like, I can't even believe I'm saying this. So
how was it when you went and did that? Oh. When you went and put your feet in the sand?
Well, it's like, I we sat in the sand. We took our shoes off,
Mhm.
walked down to a place that we
Mhm.
were like by the ocean, but couldn't sweep us away.
Right.
And to just sit there, feet planted,
Feel the earth.
feeling the
Mhm.
earth, and like wiggled my toes a little bit, and then to hear the listen, hear the waves, engaging all the different senses. I mean, it brought.
Did it bring
It
regulation?
it brings yes, it brings. I was gonna say security.
Yeah.
It's like a. Okay, we're okay.
The same
We're
God that
okay.
is holding the tide is holding you. The same God that is holding this sand onto the earth by gravity is holding you. There's a deep connection to, I say, like, in order for us to heal, we have to connect to ourselves first, then to God. Just to connect to ourselves is spirituality, and it will lead you to idolatry always. It will lead you to the idol of self. But when we invite God into that connection, it moves us out of self and into the holy realms. And it's within the holy realms that invitation comes with God and then restoration. So it's connection to self, God, and then really connection to others, right? Like sitting with someone and having a conversation like, am I seeing this clearly? We've had multiple conversations of this. I don't think I'm seeing this clearly. And then to have someone that loves you and cares for you say, you're not seeing this clearly, that part of that connection helps us. And then also just the connection to the earth. When we sit and do academy, we start with asking, what's your happy place? And everyone says something about either connecting, sitting outside. They tell me about being in the trees or being on the beach or being on the lake, and often either by themselves or with family. And those are the across the board, the connecting pieces. And I think the enemy does a really good job of going, think about how much work was done when we were younger to pull us away from our bodies. And it's not because the church wants you to hate your body. There are aspects of the flesh, right, that we can give over to. But what happened was, instead of understanding the body, we just get rid of it. Just sever ourselves from it. So yeah, there's probably good stuff in there, but it's too scary to deal with. So let's not deal with it. And I believe that the enemy had his hand in that, because when we are connected to our body and our body's telling the truth, a panic attack comes, for instance, we go, oh my gosh, I need more faith. I'm broken. I'm a mess. I'm having a panic attack. Rather than see a panic attack as going, okay, this is actually my really good body letting me know, hey, there's some stuff going on that we're not dealing with. And I'm going to give you a signal because you haven't been seeing all the other signs. And it's like the teapot is about to bubble over, and the panic attack is just the whistle, the woo from the teapot that it can't take anymore. And so we see this as a bad thing. We see this as our body being broken, or we see this as our body not having enough faith, when really it's actually a very, very good body that is saying, hey, white flag, enough's enough. We need help here. Will you listen? Will you listen?
Yeah. I think it does feel, when these things happen, a panic attack or whatever, or the opposite, like absolute just like fatigue or exhaustion, or the inability to man, there is what's wrong with me? Yeah. Like, what is
right?
I mean,
well, there is something wrong.
Correct.
Right? But we see it as shameful.
That's exactly right.
And
like,
so
am I broken? What's happened? I can't do what I once you like.
I just need to pray more.
So we either go there in our spirituality, like, okay, well, I must not be doing my devotions long enough at the right time of day.
Right.
Like, okay. Or I mean, in both of our worlds, there is a tendency like, okay, I just need to achieve more. Okay, I'll just work. It's this. And I think that's what I did for so long. Okay, well, what's next?
Right.
Let's just move on to what's next. Like, pull myself up here. We can do this. I've done it before. I can do it again until. Right. And I think that as you're just describing, I'm like, I feel a little emotional, which is probably a whole thing. But I'm like, oh, how good.
It's such a good body.
How good that the body would even be like, when you whistled like that, ooh, the teapot, like, hey, thank you. Like, hey, it's almost like the body going, I feel you. I see you.
Yeah.
Hey. Yeah. Pay attention, because there is more for you. It's not over. You're not done. You're not broken. I mean, we're broken.
Right.
But it's nothing to be ashamed of. Yeah. You're not going. In some ways, I think for me, that season of being, that's anxious. I was super, super anxious and hurting. I was hurting. I had experienced tremendous betrayal, and I was brokenhearted. and not paying attention. I was just going to keep working through it. I was going to do all the tactics and coping that I had always done. And my body's like, actually, no. And that actually in some ways is progress.
100%.
It's actually you're moving forward to stop and pay attention, even though it feels like, wait, what? I didn't experience this before, and I've worked hard before, and I've done a lot before, and I've had broken relationships before, and blah, 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 whatever. But it's like almost like body going, yeah, and I want to like a flag. Because actually, there's a better path.
Yeah. Well, I mean, God wants, he really wants freedom and healing for you. That is his deepest desire. He came for two reasons: to free you and to have intimacy with you. And you cannot have intimacy with someone who is severed. Intimacy is integrated. It is emotional. It's connected. It's enmeshment. I mean, this is what intimacy is. This is when we think of intimacy, we think of a spouse or, sexual activity or whatever, but intimacy is enmeshment. It is the two things coming together and moving in a state of, I know your body and you know mine. And this is actually what Jesus wants for us. But how can he know our body when we're so severed from it? And how can we let him tend to it when we are so disconnected from it? And so anxiety, depression, especially those two, really are the outcome of a body needing care. And we often find, what we talk about in the book is we find these, when we don't know or care has not been available to us, we opt for these behaviors. They're called, when we're younger, they're called adaptive behaviors to keep us in belonging in our family and our family of origin, whatever that is, whether it's hustle or whether it's being the people pleaser or being the invisible one or, being the controlling one, whatever it is, those adaptive behaviors when we're 7 keep us in our routine of family of origin because we can't go out on our own. We don't have an adult brain. But when we get older, those become maladaptive behaviors. And those maladaptive behaviors are going to often want to override the pain that our body's experiencing because we know in our head, we've known in our head that when I needed care, it was not available to me. So because it was not available to me in the way that I needed it, whether in big T trauma or little t trauma, big hurt, little hurt, I opted for a behavior to keep me from having to deal with the fact that no one was there to help me with my pain. So now we're adults and we have an adult brain, but our brain is still functioning as if it did when we were 7. So when your anxiety comes up, it's finally saying like, hey, I can actually tell you the truth because you're an adult now, and we can actually talk about, because you're still stuck at 7 and it's not working anymore. It's become maladaptive. It's no longer helping us stay in belonging. It's actually keeping us from it. And so that is the beauty of what it means to engage your body, and to invite God into that. And just to be very clear, like there's a lot of things out there that will help you engage your body, and they're amazing. And I'm all about engaging your sensations, but I'm not about you engaging your sensations for the sake of engaging your sensations. They are always to be coupled with invitation. Without invitation from God, our body and the routines of these activities become idolatry. They just do. They become, self-love becomes the idolatry of, I need to bring pleasure to my body, and the outcome of that is going to be death. And so it's just another form of behavior modification. And that is why this work has to be coupled. So, when we welcome it, there's illumination. Okay, there's a problem. That's illumination, but illumination has to be coupled with the invitation for there to be restoration.
And I think that's why I love so much in that particular section, how you do talk about the ways of taking care and giving yourself permission, but that it was holy.
Yes.
And it's not just like we don't eat good food because we're trying to stay skinny.
Yeah, no.
We're doing it to take care, to tend
and
to
to enjoy.
And right. And also
the
engage
flavors.
the senses of taste.
Mm-hmm.
And what can I taste is a way, honestly, one of the tools that I have adapted to like ground myself at times is like, okay, what can I hear? What do I taste? What can I touch? And so engaging, yes, what do I smell? So and even just like a walk. It's not because we need to burn off the couch. Like there's just so many reasons. And I'm talking in these terms because it is what I do a lot with people.
100%.
Is help them engage their body, but it is not, it can be abused.
It's for
It
care.
can be abused.
not
And
for
this is for care. And so I think that, this is getting talked about more.
Yeah.
The body's getting talked
Thank
about
God.
more. And I think it's beautiful. But I think that it's new for many of us. And it is actually, even for me, I don't know if I want to call it a discipline, but it is a bit of a practice to like give myself permission to pay attention to it. Even this day, I'll be like, wait, what's going on? And then I'm like, oh, okay, actually, the breath is happening faster. Or, oh, there's a reason that I am exhausted and I actually slept fine. And so why are my eyes burning? My eyes are burning, and it's just like has nothing to do with like my calendar.
Sleep. Yeah. Right.
So it is kind of a practice that requires paying, like really being aware. So, like I said, no matter how new this is to you, or even if it's something that you are more aware of, I think it would be helpful if you would give, like, where do we start? Or where do we go from here? Because this can sound like a foreign language.
Right, for sure. I mean, I'm not going to tell you to like whip out your oils now. I think the number one thing you can start doing is get outside. One of the greatest things that you can do is stand outside, go somewhere that's pretty wherever you live. I have traveled over the entire globe. There is always a pretty park. You can always find a pretty park. And I don't care if it's winter. I live in Chicago, so don't tell me about weather. You can always find. I have found a pretty park, and I still sat in my car, but I got outside even for a few minutes to breathe. And I think once we get out in nature, there is something about something like you did with your feet in the sand, connecting us to the earth that allows us just to go, okay, Lord. The Bible says in Psalms 139, all the stuff about how he formed you in your mother's womb. And then David goes on to talk about his enemies and how they're against him. And then yet, in my highs, you're with me. In my lows, you're with me. And the last verse there, 23, 24 says, so search me and know me. Show me any anxious way that is in me, and help me walk in the way of the everlasting. There is a cry of David that says, and even in you knowing all of this about me, I don't always know what's going on, but you do. And it isn't until we stop and pause and rest. And I don't mean like rest, like I'm just going to sit and do Netflix and chill. I'm talking about the rest that when I say an ambling walk, often I won't get into the cortisol levels, but in order to flush cortisol, that stress hormone in your body, you actually produce cortisol when you're working out. If you're working out above a level where your heartbeat is raised. And that's really good. It's really good for health benefits. But to flush cortisol, the stress hormone in your body, an ambling walk is really important. It helps flush it. And so does being in nature. And so I would say rest, I made a joke before this, but I always say like in between on the 10 Commandments, between monotheism, only one God, and like don't murder, is rest. And I think because the idea for me has been when I hustle without rest, it will always create in some level idolatry. But when I'm hustling, because there is just, the body is made to work. It's made to, a field has to be plowed, and there's a seasonal time that it has to be taken care of for there to reap a harvest. That's just part of our human experience. But without rest, we will hustle out of need for the hustle to be our worth, and it will produce with us inevitably anxiety, depression, and disaltering of our nervous system, a dysregulated body. So when I would say, what's the first thing? Go outside, take an ambling walks, pause, and ask yourself these questions. What am I thinking? What am I thinking about? And what do I feel about those thoughts? How do those thoughts, when I'm thinking about my kids going off to college, okay, that's taking up a lot of my mind space. That's not bad. That's just true.
Yeah.
How do I feel about that? And then how can I invite God into that? God, this probably isn't going to change right now. Would you come into this thought with me and just sit with me in it? Don't ask him to take it away from you, because he'll do that on his own timing. Just ask him to enter in. And when we do that in nature, we feel the earth, we see the bigness of our planet, the stars that are hung in the sky that never fall, the sand that somehow stays stuck to the ground and doesn't float up, the tide that comes just enough close until it's pulled back every single second. It goes in and comes out. This same God that holds all of that holds you, and he catches every tear. He's weeping with you as your son or daughter are moving on to college. He is weeping with you as your father just got that diagnosis of tumor. He is weeping with you over the story that you have kept quiet and secretive, and yet it's living in your body. He's weeping with you. And so I think that invitation, that pause, that rest, that go out, it's not something that fixes over time and you don't need it. You will always need a 10 commandment that says, in between, don't put any gods before me and don't murder anybody, will always be rest.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all of that. And thank you for being a woman of faith that is, I'm going to get so emotional, but is so rooted in the word that enabled me to learn about this, because you really were the primary person that introduced me in a way that I felt like, okay, this isn't crazy and I can receive this. And, this is called the Significant Life podcast for a reason.
Yeah.
I actually feared insignificance. I feared my life wouldn't matter. And as a result of that, I often was really hard on my body.
Yeah.
I worked really hard. I performed a lot. I achieved a lot, and I still do, but from a place of wholeness.
Yeah.
And I think that everything you just described, and the process and the ongoing journey of it actually enables people like me. And I know that's a lot of the people listening. It's all of us. We all want our life to count, and we think our life counts by working harder, doing more, and hustling to the place of idolatry. It's enabled me to embrace beauty that is in stillness.
Yeah.
That is in, I used to think play was a waste of time.
Yeah.
And it's for the lazy, and now I crave play.
Yeah.
And I'm able to go, oh, my body just needs to play.
Yeah.
To rest. I crawled in bed last night in my pajamas at 7:30 p.m. That is
Glorious.
yes, but foreign for, the
hustler.
Yes. And yes, the Jen 10 years ago. And it is, and yet I just launched a book. We're on this podcast. I think that's the other thing. It actually, because it's so God's design and he wants us to be whole and healed, you're still very effective in the world. He desires for our lives to bear fruit.
Is important. Yes.
He desires us to bear fruit. But now I actually can do it from a place that there is really a little more joy in the journey. Even though joy has marked my life, I'm like, oh no, there's a depth to it. There's and an amplification to it. And it has come, a lot of it, from actually paying attention and being aware of my body, and then getting these tools, reading a book like this. I mean, I read your other book, and I've gone through all of your programs multiple times. And so I'm grateful for this, because I think that Free and Fully Alive is something that I believe every person can read, and it'll take them to the deeper places. It's going to be transformative. This is, there's actions in here. So sure, there's some things it's like, hey, this is what you can do. There's these, one of my favorite I don't know if it's a graphics ever, that I go to all the time when I'm trying to remind myself of, okay, what happens when I'm feeling shame? I have two choices here.
Yeah.
We can go down two roads in this path. Let me get the graphic. That's right. That's right. This is what I need to do. We need to share so that I can connect, so that it actually will lead to my calling.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's going to be transformative, and super, super helpful, with also some practical, like what you just did, walking us through a process of how to engage our body. So thank you.
Before we get off, because I want to say this for all of those, because I know a lot of your listeners got your book, Divinely Different. And I just want to say, because I've gotten to walk with you through all of that writing. I mean, not all of this stuff have I known you, but I've known you for a long time. And here's the difference. That book that you're going to pick up, the Divinely Different book, is a story about someone that found joy and didn't need happiness. And like this joy is that you're talking about, it's subterranean, right? It's like, no matter what, it's in my body. And joy doesn't mean that this is not hard. It means that it is hard. And yet, because I'm allowing Jesus to be present in it rather than me try to fix, control, or find happiness, it grounds you. And that's what I feel you really have. I mean, you are the poster child for Freedom Academy. Like you've been to 6 of them and you've hosted them. You've sent multiple people. So when we talk about champion, really you are, when you find something good, you share it and you want everyone to go. And I have benefited greatly from that. And so when I say like, yes, my book is definitely going to be something that's helping you, give you tools. When you read Divinely Different, I want you to understand there is a woman that was before this book, and there is a woman that has written this book. And they really are very different people, and the Jen before was looking for happiness. I want to be happy. This will make me happy. This will make me happy.
Let's not be sad. We want to be happy.
Yeah. And that's going to give me worth and whatever. Yeah. And the book that you have written, which is just a blessing to me because it now states when we actually do this work that is very hard, joy is the outcome. Joy is the outcome of this work. And it's hard and it's long. For some of us, longer than others. My journey is a little longer than yours. I had a little more trauma. And so there's a few of us that the journey is a little longer. And yet mercy is new every morning and joy is with us in that journey. And so I just wanted to clarify because we throw take joy in the journey. We kind of throw that around. Joy is a place that is earned in the dirt. It is earned in the dirt. And that book that you wrote is your trench dirt work that produced joy. And that only can come from Jesus. We cannot, we manufacture happiness. God manufactures joy.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, I needed to clarify.
No, I love that. And so, okay, I think that purchasing the book on Amazon is going to be a great step for everyone that is listening. So it's Free and Fully Alive by Karrie Garcia. And then where else can they find you?
Yeah, just Karrie Scott Garcia on social media. And if you want to know where any of our trainings are, you can follow freedom_movement, or you can go to wearefm.org, wearefm.org. And that's where all of my trainings, academies, online memberships, all the things are.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that you can connect and really begin to reclaim the story of who you were created to be through the different offers of Karrie. And I actually have been through all of them, participated in all of them, and I highly recommend all of them, but go grab the book now. Okay, Karrie.
Thanks.
We have a dance to do.
We do. We have a reel to make, guys.
So we're getting it ready to play. We're going to go play. Thank you so much for listening.
Bye, guys.